Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome to today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety Team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today. Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. My guest today helps women untangle from worry thoughts by weaving together their story into a narrative that lets them live in the present and open the door to deep love. Please welcome the host of the Bossing Up Overcoming OCD podcast, the one, the only Aaron Davis. How you doing today?
Hi, thank you, Pete. I'm doing great. I really appreciate you having me on your show. So glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself? Let them know who Aaron is exactly.
Yes. So I've been in the mental health field for 14 years. That's kind of like the boring part of it. But the exciting part is I have really found some unique ways to help women get out of these OCD loops because time and time again, women are told that it's just stress, it's just
Yeah.
anxiety, when really it's more than that. OCD, yes, there's anxiety involved, but it's a belief disorder because you are doubting yourself, you're doubting your reality. And so I help women get to know the real you. And that is such a special like transformation that they go through. And yeah, I mean, that's something that I've really refined and worked on over the years because I've seen it even in my own life. I got so tired of doctors saying it's just stress
Yeah.
when it's much more than that.
No, I agree. I agree. I think it is. I think a lot of people are quick to say it's one thing when it's really another thing, and a lot of them don't even address it. Too, a lot of therapists don't either. Like a lot of topics we've gotten into, it's so scary how many people just kind of avoid it. They're like, oh, okay, whatever. I think I can handle this, but they can't, and it's just like, yeah, I don't think so, man. You're killing this. And it's interesting though because OCD has not been covered on the show yet. I don't think we've even touched that actually at this point. So, which is great that's why you're here though, so you can help people out with some tips and things like that and all that good stuff too. So what led you to do your podcast though?
Absolutely. Well, mostly because of so many women coming into my office who say they have anxiety and they have been to therapists for years. Okay. So they've been in therapy, done all the things, and they are at this low place in their life where they're like, I don't think anything's going to work. Like, do I have to live like this forever?
Yeah.
And that's just really troubling, really troubling that someone is going to a trained therapist, and I've since transitioned into coaching to try to reach more women because you go expecting that you're going to get help and then it doesn't help.
Yeah.
And that's the thing because the techniques are very different from just the anxiety stuff. But the other reason that I started the podcast was because people will say, "Oh, I'm so OCD." And it's like, "Oh, hun, no, you're not." Like, there's definitely, and that can be offensive to people who truly struggle and, like, have the
Yeah.
24/7 nightmare going on in their head. So there's a big difference in what truly is OCD, and so ultimately, the podcast is there to be, like a free resource, but also inform women. I mean, men too, but mostly women, like, here's the sneaky ways OCD shows up. Because recently, I just launched a series on narcissism
Hmm.
because women who are like very thoughtful, kind, empathetic, when they do nice things for others, they're like, "Oh, does that make me a narcissist because they like me or because I'm getting attention?" And so, anyway, they can really withdraw and shelter themselves over so many fears and things, and they don't
I
even
think that's
realize that
interesting though,
it's
because narcissism was talked about in the show twice, and we upset some people. Like we got triggered them to like the point they felt what we were talking about. Me and one of my guests, she runs the podcast. You Have the Power. Her and I were talking about it, and some people were saying like 15 minutes in that interview, 15 30 minutes in, they're like, "Yeah, I got to take a break. This is getting rough," because we went deep into that conversation. And we've had some other authors too, like Mia Hanks wrote the book Bridesmaids, talking about her 15 years with her husband and things like that. So that one, when that comes up, it's very interesting to get responses from
Mhm.
people because they're like, "Oh man," because a lot of people are like they don't realize that that's their situation they're in because they don't see it that way. Is you're not looking at the outside looking in. Somebody else on the outside is trying to tell you, and like my situation was like that too. The person looking on the outside was like, "Hey man, you need to wake up and see there's this going on here. Look at these things. Look at these things you keep telling me. It's like these things are all things you're not noticing. And when people realize it, then they're like, "Ooh man, that tug at the strings really hard too."
Yes, yes. And for OCD, it attacks the things that you love most.
Yeah,
And one big thing to be clear on, OCD thoughts are what we call ego dystonic, meaning they go against what you cherish, it goes against your character. And that's why the thoughts are so upsetting.
yeah,
It goes against who you are. Um, but when a woman is thinking, like, what if I'm a narcissist? She's really stressing out about it.
yeah.
And you know, a true narcissist, they're not going to worry about that.
Yeah, true. Very true. And I think people say narcissist real fast, but don't understand what the word even means half the time. And they don't even understand the situation a lot of times because then they'll be like, oh, well, I didn't know. That's the whole point. The narcissist doesn't want you to know. A lot of the covert ones will just sit there and paint themselves to be this godly picture, whatever they want, this positive image. But in the back scene, they're doing these heinous things. And a lot of people don't realize that either. And they're like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? Well, because it's not that easy to tell somebody when you're in that situation because sometimes they're using something against you and they're feeding off your fears and things like that too.
Ooh, yes. So a real narcissist will manipulate people to get what they want.
Hmm.
Whereas an OCD person, in my experience, they are very kind and considerate. And so they wouldn't think of hurting anyone in any way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, whenever they have any kind of thought that makes them seem um, unwanted or like harmful to others, anything of that sort, it just makes them get really anxious, and they can do all sorts of things like monitoring their thoughts, they're researching on Google,
God, no.
asking,
Not the WebMD. No, that's
oh
like
yeah,
like it's almost like WebMD when you say that because that's what you think of. 'Cause all those people go there and go, well, I think I got cancer. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's how this works. Unfortunately, you can't
yes,
self-diagnose that.
yes, exactly. And so that would be a form of the health OCD where, they're paranoid about their health. Like
Yeah.
every time they get a headache, they worry that it's brain cancer,
Right.
and I
That's
call it Dr. Google. They go to
Yep.
Dr. Google all the time.
Yeah, that's funny too because me and another guest, we were talking about actually ChatGPT came up in the conversation and she was like, she has this app
Yes.
and she said that ChatGPT was telling people how to commit suicide. And I was like, what?
Oh,
What? Yeah. So she said that what it was they were doing, how people kept making that statement about how they said ChatGPT is my better therapist than my actual therapist. I guess ChatGPT didn't have a filter on there or something. And it was telling people like how to commit, these acts, and I'm just like,
whoa.
I'm like, "Well, hold up." She's like, "Yeah, because she's like, my app's not like that. We work really hard to make sure these things happen." And she was telling me about it, and I was just like, "Wait a minute, what?" She's like, "Yeah, you didn't hear about that on ChatGPT? We're just talking to these people, are really depressed. We're talking to them, have these really bad suicidal thoughts." And it started suggesting ways of they should go about doing it. I'm like, "No,
Whoa.
ChatGPT, stop." It was just
Man.
crazy to heir because it's just like, what? Because, you hear
Yeah.
all these people posting these videos. I'm like, oh well, ChatGPT is better than my therapist. And I'm like, guys, stop, guys, just stop.
No.
Because someone's gonna buy that crap and go do that. And now this is what the end result is. Someone's actually did it. And now ChatGPT is giving out these suggestions to people that are possibly in this state of mind, and it's not
Yeah.
good.
Well, and you're bringing up such a valid point. Like we have to be careful what information we're seeking,
Mhm.
like the source. Oh my gosh, I cannot get over that Chat GPT did that. But I'm also not surprised
Well, listen,
because
Wikipedia still exists out there too, and we all know that's edited by the public, so we A lot of people like to,
Right.
refer to that too. I'm like, well, check your sources is a very good point when you say that because do check who you're getting your information from because
So
what's
true.
their credits, like and things like that too. And I think people just start getting things, they're going these rabbit holes or stuff, and it's just yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially
Yeah.
TikTok, that's a fun one too.
Whew. Yes, because as you can see on the internet, people can say anything and everything, and
Yep.
that sucks because for people who are experts, they kind of get drowned out in the noise,
Yeah.
and so it's like, well, how do you know who to really go to? And so, what I would recommend is looking at someone's actual experience. Like ChatGPT has zero, like that's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Um, and like the OCD groups that I'm a part of, like on Facebook and stuff, I have seen them post content in there of like, oh, I went to Chat GPT for this exposure exercise. I'm sharing it. And I'm like, oh no. Like that is so risky. Chat
Gosh.
GPT does not understand your brain.
It
It
doesn't.
doesn't. It knows, and like, and let me be fair, okay? Do I use Chat GPT? Sure, but only for outlines.
Yeah.
Like the other stuff that I'm sharing on my podcast, like that's from experience, that's from
Yeah.
training, that's from like the continuing education units that I do every year. I mean, like so different. So anyway, um in talking about exposures as an example, like it's a very specific technique we use for OCD to help retrain your brain that you can
Yeah.
tolerate this feared situation. Because what you're ultimately doing is you're changing your relationship with these thoughts.
Yeah.
So while Chat GPT may give you an exposure exercise, who's going to be there to hold you accountable to doing the exercise, first of all? Because, like, if we want to work out, we can go to a gym. We probably know what to do a little bit. We know how to
Yeah.
do push ups, sit ups, squats. But how much more are we going to accomplish if we have a personal trainer?
True. Because it's all about proper technique and everything else and things like that. And it depends
Bingo.
how much research you go into it and you see what they're telling you to do versus, what other people are telling you. Yeah.
Yes. And so Chat GPT is not going to be there to encourage you. It's not going to even probably give you the right step, honestly, because we do this in a hierarchy of steps.
Yeah.
Um, and we're like in my work, I'm gauging with the person how much stress they're under. So then I'm not overwhelming them because there is a fine line that when you're overwhelmed with the stress, you're not learning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I could tell you that because that's when my anxiety sometimes like that too. Just I get so overwhelmed. It's like it just starts boiling over, and it's just like once my heart starts racing, and you don't know it's racing. I'm done. I'm lit. The lights are on, but nobody's home at that point. Like I'm there, but I'm not there.
Yes. And that's a natural physical response because you think about our fight or flight reaction is there to help us survive.
Yeah.
And if we're running from a lion, tiger, or bear, we don't need to be doing math problems or reading a book or deep breathing exercises. No, we need to get out of Dodge.
I'm gonna get the hell out of there. Let's go. Run.
Yes. Yes. So, man, this chat GPT thing's so crazy. It's
She's
real.
just like the damn chat GPT again's ruining it for me. No, it was
Well,
so
I mean,
fascinating because Dr. Fujane is the one that told me about it. She was like, when we discussed it, I was just like, "What? Hold up." She's like, "Yeah, I was telling him all these things." I was like, "Are you kidding?" She's like, "No, no." See, because she has an app her own, and she was saying like that's the reason she went to such extent to make sure that hers wouldn't lead you down those thought patterns and things like that too, because that wasn't the purpose of it. But she said people were doing that whole trend of, oh well, Chat GPT's my whatever, because social media, we post these things, so everybody gets excited and wants to go do the same thing too now. And then it's like, oh God.
yeah,
We're a very sheepish mentality here in society. I don't get why we decide to keep doing some of these stupid things that we do, but some gotta
yeah.
learn.
Well, exactly. And there's probably going to be a wave. You know how it goes, like the pendulum swings.
Hmm.
Like eventually, probably Chat GPT they're not going to be using that for mental health. There's probably
Yeah.
going to be some kind of black box warning that comes out on it eventually. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like the instructions, they get more and more dumbed down as the years go on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I feel
anyhow,
that exactly. It's like, okay, step 1, breathe in. Step 2, breathe out. It's like you're gonna have to teach people how to breathe. And it's just like it's scary that, what is that movie? Idiocracy is the one that's the closest thing to what you're saying right now, is because then the movie, the premise was, it's like, what happens if stupid people only reproduce and the smart people didn't because they were overthinking things too much. Like they're like,
yes.
trying to like weigh
It
the variables and things. So you're watching them weigh the variables, and then all of them as they just slowly start disappearing. Then it's all that happens when stupid people take
yes.
over, and then you've got,
Oh my gosh.
we're trying to use energy drink to water the grass and wonder why it's not growing type things going on. It was a great movie. If anybody's
Yes.
never seen it, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I saw a like a meme or something about how instructions have gotten a lot dumber, and you would think that we would be a lot smarter, right? Because we've gained more knowledge and experience. But it was like looking at the instructions of a car back in the day, and it was like how to do all this stuff with the transmission and whatnot. And then now it says, do not eat the battery. Like,
I'm not surprised because somebody's done
oh
something with it. That's why it's always somebody that ruins it for everybody. And it's the same thing with anything. Everybody's like, well, who ruined it for us now?
no.
The
Yeah.
internet? Like, which one do you want to
Joe
listen at
Schmo.
this point?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's what
Yeah.
is now TikTok's the one they blame the most now because that's where everybody goes for everything, like, all these videos, and then you have all these people giving out all this misinformation. So I could see that though for you, it's hard because it's like, then somebody comes to you with this information, you're looking at them like, huh? Where did you find this? And then they say TikTok, you're like, God damn it, TikTok, here we go again. How many times I got to tell
Right.
you not to do something?
Right.
It
Right.
is, but it's the truth though. Think about it, because social media now, you have such a wide reach to how you get to everybody, and it's the same thing with your podcast. You
Mhm.
could reach more people in a broader scale than even the people that are just like, well, I don't think I'm OCD or whatever, they can start listening and start identifying these things. But it's
Yes.
like all there's so much crap out there. It's like you have to sort through all the shit to get to the facts and then everything like that. Like you said, all the experts are getting
Right.
drowned out. But then you got these guys and these people getting there so convincing because they're like, oh, this is how you should do it, or this. And I was like, stop, please stop. Like your first
Oh,
question always
yes.
should be is, what are your credentials to anybody that's telling you advice of
Yes.
any sort? That
Yes.
should be the one and only thing you ask them, is like, "Hey, what's your credentials?" Because watch them how fast they turn back and go, "Oh, well, I don't have any." Well, okay, then how are you giving me advice to me when you have no training whatsoever?
Exactly. Exactly. And, I won't name drop, but there is a really big person out there who promotes like a lot of mindfulness and
Mhm.
self-healing. And you probably know who I'm talking about. And their whole background is like a fraud.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really go to said place and have, like, a spiritual awakening. No, they just found a way to create a story to maneuver and manipulate the audience and buy into this story, and now here they are creating, like, a university that's a scam and so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's scary though, because people are like, they buy into this, and it's like you buy into this narrative, and it's just like, but you don't think that some of this doesn't sound weird. It's like, we're doing all these things. Does this sound a little strange to you? Oh, no, no, we're just gonna keep going with it or whatever. It's like that one person in the mob party that's always asking questions. Like, Rob Schneider usually plays those characters. Like, he's like, oh wait, hold on. Okay, never mind, let's go. Like, it's just like, come on, guys, stop.
Yeah.
I get social media is great. It's great to connect with people. It's great to get information, things, but like, let's pick who we're getting our sources from. Like, you can listen to some of these guys, but
Exactly.
that's the question in your head should always be, is the credential thing. I think that when you start asking questions about people's backgrounds and things, you find very interesting things out about them. Or is it, all the things like Bill's Cosby, or just all these different people out there doing all these things in the backseat that you didn't know they were doing the whole time
Oh,
or something. You know what I mean? It's just like people just
so
get so
true.
interested by it. So
Yes.
what was it? The Hulk Hogan now is the one that when he died recently now. God, these
Yeah.
people turn everything into a political statement because, oh, now the left side's upset. I'm like, what? What?
Why?
I,
Oh my gosh.
God knows, because everybody wants to trigger, or the girl that does what is it, the transgender girl that was put all those videos out just to get a bunch of hate. Lily Tino, there you go, the one who's talking about those inappropriate things in Disney World and things. There's some
Uh-huh.
just disgusting things just going. It's like, why do that? Because now you're gonna make people dislike everybody that's trans, because they're gonna think that they're all thinking the same way you are. And now you're starting this mob mentality against everybody because you're putting out all this misinformation about things, and you're talking about things in Disney World of all places where kids are at. Like, you're a grown
Mm.
person. Like, come on, use common sense when you're doing these things. But it's just it's and
Yeah.
then they're blaming Disney, and it's like, well, Disney has like so many things going on. Like, this one person who obviously isn't even on their radar is saying these things. It's just
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, so true. And not only is it, do you have to be careful where you get your information or like your sources from, but I think as the creator,
Hmm.
like as you're saying, it's on you to put out truthful
Yeah.
truthful stuff. And I hate that in my like podcast. I mean, it's a legal thing, but I hate that I even have to say like this is not a substitute for professional medical advice.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't want people assuming like, "Oh, I listen to your podcast and therefore you're my therapist." Like, no.
That's funny you say that because a lot of people that hear the name of my show, oh, Pete knows how to deal with anxiety. I'm like, no, Pete's just one average Joe, man. I invite people on this show to come talk about things that they specialize in and where they can find you guys. And, you guys come on, give us great tips and tell us about what things you're doing now. Or, if anybody wants to venture that way, I by no means claim any way of being an expert of any sort. I'm just one guy curious along the way, and I'm learning different things for every guest I interact with, and I'm meeting new people as I go and making new connections and things like that too. And it's like a lot
Yeah.
of people start to misconcept that, or they go, "Oh, what's your podcast about? Anxiety only?" I'm like, no, no, it's not actually. It's my own battle versus my own anxiety. That's the name of it. And then it's a mental health
Yeah.
journey of the fact that this topic isn't talked about enough. I don't care what people say. It's not talked about enough. I mean, we have these celebrities talking about it. That's great. But we're the average Joes talking about it because, like the people that are the bread and
Yeah.
butter, of this whole thing, where are they at? And that's what the great thing with this show is that I invite anybody that wants to come tell their stories and things like that. We've heard some crazy fucking stories. Like, there's a
Sure.
guy that caused a stir panic like Godzilla's crushing Tokyo again because he was talking about his suicidal ideation. He was like, "Hey Pete, that morning, I had the gun in hand," and he was going full description, and the people are just going mass panic. They're like, oh God,
They're so triggered, huh?
yeah, but it's like he's talking to you. Like,
Mm.
let's keep in mind though, like what we know is at least he's talking to us because he's man one, and we all know men don't talk enough about it because 80% of
Yeah.
us are gone at a faster rate than we're reproducing,
Hmm.
and it's because we don't discuss it. Ladies discuss it more than we do, and things like that too. But it was like he's talking to you. Now, is this an uncomfortable conversation? Yeah, anybody talking about taking their life, it's not always an uncomfortable conversation. It's never easy. I've had a few people show up in my inbox talking about that, and I was just like,
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's also it could be an OCD thing.
mm, yeah,
So when someone has we call it harm OCD
yeah,
or suicidal OCD because and I had I've got several episodes on that on my YouTube and you can find that at Aaron Davis YouTube. And I appreciate you subscribing to my channel, by the way. I
yeah,
subscribe back. But yeah, so what happens is like the basis of OCD is that you experience intrusive thoughts.
yeah.
And what that means is these thoughts come in involuntarily, they're unwanted. You weren't thinking about them on purpose. Um, and the other thing about these thoughts, like to make it classified in the therapy world as OCD, is that it's either the thoughts or the behaviors that last more than an hour a day. And like we have up to 70,000. Are you able to still hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay. All right. So we have up to 70,000 thoughts a day. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's super easy to be stuck in a cycle for an
So
hour.
let me ask you this question. Do you think people misconcept what OCD really is, or like they think it's something different than what it
Yes.
is by far? I'm sure you run into that problem a lot of times when people are saying something and you're like, yeah, well, that's
Yes.
not really what it is.
Yes. There's a huge misconception about it. People think that it's just the germophobia, like it's
Yeah.
just the hand washing or being very organized. Maybe if they have a little bit more knowledge of OCD, maybe they'll get to the point of, oh, it's a tapping or magic numbers. But
Yeah.
no, it's way more than that. So, like with the suicidal thoughts, I've even worked with an adult who checked themselves into the hospital because they were so worried that they were going to accidentally harm themselves.
So
Yeah.
Is that really the situation though? 'Cause there's no way you can accidentally do anything. Am I not wrong going down that road? Because it kind of sounds like, but it makes sense though, because like I said, I
Yes.
think a lot of people, the same thing with DID was the same thing. It was called multiple personality disorder for the longest time. Then they changed the name
Mhm.
of it, so now it makes a little more sense. But it wasn't really so much different personalities in everybody. It was those little tweaks of things that you see when someone does. And it's different in everybody, and it's really hard. One
Mhm.
of those real hard ones to diagnose. We had a guest that said that they had it. I believe it because the way you could see these little twitch and things that just started happening, these
Yes.
personality changes a little bit. So,
Well, and you're right because with OCD, there is an element of disassociation.
oh, okay,
B-
okay,
Yeah, because and we call that the OCD bubble. Okay.
yeah,
So, whenever you have like had a daydream or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, how long was I lost in thought? Like if you were that OCD person and you were thinking of, oh my gosh, like what if I stab myself with a knife? What if I stab my loved ones with a knife? Like, what am I going to do? I need to put the knives away. And like, but can I even touch the knives to even put them away? So you do all of that
yeah,
ruminating, and that can really work someone up because, yeah, they believe that they will just one day snap and
yeah,
kill people or hurt people and stab people and like all these miserable things. But
yeah,
you can tell, and this is the work of the OCD therapist or a trained, I want to say trained OCD coach, because you can't just go to anybody, but they will know and help you recognize that those are OCD thoughts because you're clearly distressed by them. But see, to the person, they don't see that. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm a psychopath. Like, I
yeah,
need to lock myself up. And what they'll do, avoidance is the king of OCD. Like that
yeah.
is the number one compulsion I see across all of the things. Um, Even if it's religious OCD, like that's a big one. People will want to know, like, how do I know I'm saved? How do I know if I'm not going to hell? Or what if I piss off God? And like, there's so many things around that. I mean, it starts young, and
Yeah.
it takes and for a person with OCD, it can take an average of 10 to 14 years before they actually get real help for it.
Is it because people don't really know they have OCD, or is it because, like you said, like they don't really realize these things are happening? It's just normal thought process to them.
I think that's a lot of it for sure because another thing that happens is for adolescents anyway, parents will say, oh, they'll grow out of it. Like if it's a germophobia
Yeah,
fear, for example, oh, they'll grow out of it. Well, no, they don't, because they haven't learned to retrain their brain. And
yeah,
what OCD does, it's very sneaky and it's a shapeshifter. And
yeah,
so what happens is like once you get over one fear, another fear will rise up. And so the parent may mistakenly assume that their child has outgrown it or gotten over it, but what's really happened is they just shifted into a new worry. And
yeah,
sometimes these worries feel so dark that they won't share it with anybody.
yeah. Probably because they're embarrassed, right? Is that not what it be
Mhm.
though? It's
Yeah,
got to make but it's got to make raise the relationships interesting too, though. Because a lot of times, women have those self doubts about just whatever. It could be the littlest thing. Something gets said in the weirdest way possible. And I know that's a problem I have sometimes. It's like some things get said, and I'm just like, and it's the same way both ways, obviously. But I'll say some things, and then my wife will look at me like, but you know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean? I could just only imagine what it's like, because they start thinking about, oh, what does he really mean by that? Is he really okay? Or da, 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 you know what I mean? Like I could just imagine the thoughts racing
yes.
through their poor heads at that time.
100%. And that's the situation I ran into even in my own marriage. I'm in a loving marriage, and my husband is the best ever. And for me, we were 12 years in to our marriage, and I nearly sabotaged it
Yeah,
because I was so much in my head of like wanting reassurance and looking
yeah,
for reassurance all the time that he loved me and only me.
yeah,
And, like,
yeah. No, I
he
get that.
does, and, like, he does, but, like, any little thing, Like if his, like you're saying, like if his tone somehow felt different to me, it's like, what's going on? What did I do? Does he not love me? Is he about to walk out? Like it was like a litany
Yeah.
of just nonstop thoughts for me. And then I'd be sick to my stomach and then I can't focus. And so
Yeah.
um
I think a lot
yeah,
of
it
people run into that problem. They don't realize that's what it is, though. And I
yes.
think the hardest part is having the conversation because then you sound like quote unquote crazy because you're thinking these things, but at the same time, and a lot of it, like I know I had a really bad relationship with my ex for 15 years, man. It just fucked me
Mm,
up bad. So
right.
when me and her were getting dating at first, it was like she understood a lot of these things. She's very understanding in the beginning because I was bad. Like I was fucked up. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I was bad.
Mhm.
But it was hard to even admit that because I don't like to admit my faults at anything. I don't like taking responsibility when I'm wrong for certain things, but I think communication though has been the best thing for us too. Like we've had open, honest conversations about stuff, but if I've had like sometimes she'll say something, I'll just look at her like and I gotta tell myself, listen, man, just relax. Like I'm having this self dialogue of like, listen, you gotta chill out, bro. You're just gonna jump the gun here. You can't do that. Because that's how the reason this podcast even started was that he jumped the gun. She had said something or something. I don't know what it was. It just triggered me to just get so angry. Like I was so mad, but I don't know what I was mad about. It's like
Mhm.
and it was like, "Ooh, yeah, now I need to do something." So when I started getting mental health, I was just like, I wonder how many other people are talking about this because I was doing a podcast prior to this one. It was something. It was a little fun at first. It was like the first season was just the most outrageous things I've ever dealt with in customer service, and you'd be amazed how many people want to listen to some of these wild stories I had. And a lot of them go, "Are this
Wow.
true?" A lot of their only answer question is, "Hey, is this true?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was here for them. I got more if you want. Trust me."
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's like I understand that, I get it, man, because my anxiety will sometimes take off running with things, and it's just like the thought in my head will start going and my heart will start racing, and before I know it, I'm already in
Yes.
a full-blown panic attack, almost ready to just go off the deep end, and it gets rough at times.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I was totally there and my husband told me that something's got to change.
Yeah.
So one because when we got to a place where like all of these thoughts came out and he was like,
Mhm.
"I don't even know what you're talking about." He was like, and the sweetest thing, Pete, he held my hand and he was like, "I want to grow old with you."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot." Yeah.
but I get it, like, I understand because I can relate to that because I've had that issue where I'm just like, my thoughts start swirling, and I'm just like, I'm fuming for no reason, but what am I mad about? That's the thing, it's like and then it's the decision of what if you're going to say something or how you're going to react to it. I think that's where a lot of issues come up too. Is like you start reacting and just start asking weird questions, or you start doing that thing where you want to like check their phones. But I don't, I I've never been that type of person. I've never been that type of person. But those
Yeah.
kind of thoughts come in, and that's how you get those people that start like checking everything because they're so paranoid because they're like, oh, what's
Yes.
going to happen next? And stuff too. So
Yeah. Well, and now that you say that, as far as like the obsessions go in OCD, it can be a thought, image, or an urge. So
yeah,
if you had an intrusive urge to check their phone,
yeah,
that could be part of an OCD cycle. Now, here's the other thing too, I want to be clear. Just because you experience intrusive thoughts, it doesn't mean you have OCD.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah. I get that completely.
Yeah, we all have intrusive thoughts. We all
Yeah,
get really weird or wonky thoughts and like they'll pop up and be like, "Oh my gosh." Like, what is
yeah,
that? Okay? So we experience that. We all experience that. But the difference is an OCD person will put power to those thoughts in a sense of they get hooked by it and they're like, "Oh no, what does that say about me?" And then they
yeah,
start that downward spiral of investigating it or going deep or assuming it means something. So and the way I like to phrase it to my ladies is these intrusive thoughts are like a homeless man walking up to you and asking you, "Where'd you put my keys?"
that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my god, that's awesome.
yeah. So if that were to happen to you, you'd probably look at that dude and be like, "You crazy?" Like,
Right.
I don't know you. And then you'd walk on. But for whatever reason, whenever these intrusive thoughts start to fly by, you grab it and you hang on to it and you're like, oh, this must mean something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you want to act on it. And I think that's where a lot of our culture just goes too far with like the be happy and do what makes you feel good. And, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, it just gets too fluffy and snowflakey and people get they get caught up in it.
She's like, I don't like your happy, positive videos. Forget you, okay? So
Well,
it's funny though because that's what it's like though. You think about it, they grab onto something and they just start running with it. Whoa, what is it? What did happen there? What is this? And it's like
yeah.
all these people want to tell you to just relax. It's like, yeah, I wish that's how it worked. Okay, I'm glad that you could just have that magic switch or just turn it off like a light and it just goes off. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And, for their support system, like let's say their boyfriend or best friend, they've already told them, "Well, why don't you just stop thinking about it?" And it's like, gee, if I'd only thought about that sooner.
Or you know what I'm saying? It's like, thanks for the great advice, appreciated. What else you got for me
Yeah,
today?
yeah. But seriously, though, like our culture gets so wrapped up in this idea that we need to be happy all the time.
Yeah,
And I think that's where, like, I kind of put up like a caution because intrusive thoughts are going to happen.
yeah,
It's just how you respond to them.
very true.
So, can you observe them like from a distance and be like, all right, it's just an intrusive thought and move on with your life? Because what really defines you is how you show up in the world, like consistently. So, your thoughts do not define who you are. And what I like to tell people, and this is something I've learned in my training, just because you think it, it doesn't mean it's true. And just because you feel it, it doesn't mean it's dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, just good point though. Just because I believe Santa Claus is still real doesn't make him real. You're right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So,
That's hilarious. So, do you have any tips for people like OCD? Like, what if like here? How about this be easier for you? How about how does someone identify if they're OCD? Like someone's sitting here listening, is going, okay, well, how can I tell if I'm OCD? What are some things they should be looking for that maybe they need to go find some help for that?
yeah. So, I would first look at how much distress you're
Yeah,
experiencing. Like if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety over, some thoughts or situations, that would be your first clue.
yeah,
Okay. The second clue is how are you reacting to those thoughts? Do you then go ask for reassurance? Do you then go to Google and try to research? Or do you then try to avoid that thing because you don't trust yourself?
yeah,
And then in total, if it's more than an hour a day. And, the OCD can wax and wane. And honestly, I think all of us can be OCD about something at some point of our life, because for example, let's say college students, you spend more than an hour a day worrying about your grades if you're, a good
yeah,
student. But I'd say the third layer to watch out for is how much like chaos is this bringing in your life, because you worrying about your grades, like that's not a huge problem on your social relationships unless there's something else going on, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So,
yeah,
yeah. So, is this holding you back from feeling confident? Is this holding you back from, you know, asking someone out on a date? Is this keeping you inside and you're not going on a walk like outside your home? Are you avoiding like even your pet because you're worried about something bad happening? Like, you can tell if there's this looming dark cloud over you that you can't seem to shake.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. So I mean, it's just I guess the follow up to that would be definitely be like if someone has OCD, do you have any tips for them how to handle it better? Because a lot of people don't understand these situations and they overreact or they'll do something, and they could have avoided it the whole time, instead of making the situation worse. These are some things they could do.
Yeah. I mean, definitely get help
Hmm.
because OCD can be so tricky and it likes to twist things because some of these worries are understandable. Like, sure, you don't want to go to hell, but
Hmm.
how much of that worry is like filtering over into your life to a point where you can't function, you're not listening to the radio, you're not opening your Bible, you're not going to church, things like that. So, anyhow, in getting help, find someone who's trained, first of all. The next thing that I would recommend that's like a on do it on your own, type of strategy is making a list of your values. Okay, so those things that, oh, is that a dog behind you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How funny. Okay, so making a list of your values because your values are those things that light you up and that bring you fulfillment. And
Yeah.
the more time you spend in those values, the less time you're giving the OCD.
Yeah.
And what often happens is the OCD attacks those things that you value. So, your pet, for example, you probably value your pet, like you love them, you take care of them, you wouldn't do anything to hurt them. But
Yeah.
you'd be surprised at how OCD will tell you, oh, you're gonna put them in a boiling pot of water, or you're gonna put them in your dryer, or you're gonna put them in the microwave, or you're gonna stab them. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
not the pets.
yes, and
We don't need a
of
John
course,
Wick moment here, okay?
well, and I've worked with plenty of people who have had this fear,
Yeah.
but and that's where it gets hard for them, because and that's the point where they seek out help because they're like, I love my pet, but I can't. It's like I can't even be around them because I'm so worried I'm going to hurt them, and that's not good for
Yeah.
any of us. Yeah. And that's why people don't speak up about it because it can be very scary sometimes. It's like, "Oh my gosh, like what a, they might feel like they're a psycho when it's just OCD. Like this doesn't define who you are." So, I
Yeah.
hope you don't mind them being very real about how it is
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah, and I think that's the part too is when people start talking about things like that, the reactions, what their biggest fear is, like they're worried what someone's going to say, and it's the same thing when it came to therapy and all that kind of stuff. You tell people, oh, you're going to see a therapist, and then they look at you from a different light. They're like, oh, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I don't think you know what crazy is, but okay. It's like you can't always listen to them, and don't be afraid to tell people if you're doing stuff like that. It's like, they're gonna have their preconceived notions either way. It's just like, that's the hardest part about it. It's just with mental health in general is when you talk about it, people just start shutting down. They're like, yeah, I'm good. Because nobody wants to talk about their feelings or any of this other kind of stuff. And then they find out all these things about you or the ideations. That stuff comes up too.
Mhm.
And people get nervous because they're just like, they don't know how to handle these things. So that's the thing of the whole
Yes.
idea of starting the conversation, is to get them to understand that, yeah, you may hear these things, but it doesn't mean go straight into panic mode because, it may be more beneficial for this person to be talking to you now versus not saying anything later and not be able to say anything later because, they are
Mhm.
so afraid to talk to you about it.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. Yeah, people don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And when people come into my world to get help with their OCD, we will also involve their partner or their parent so that they know how to coach the
Oh, I love that. That's
person
awesome.
through the episodes so that they don't get into an OCD spin out and, kind of go about it the wrong way because there is a wrong way to go about it. Like you don't give the person reassurance. You just give them here. So here would be another tip. You empathize with them,
Hmm.
you validate, and you give them confidence that they can get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say someone who's in a relationship and they ask, do you love me? All right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you,
Okay. Yep.
you, the partner, or even, that question of, are you cheating on me when like there's no evidence? So you, the partner, would say, that's your OCD talking. I understand it's hard. but you can get through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff
You
like
know.
that, because it's very easy, even for the partner or the parent, to get hooked into those questions. And you'll know, here's the other like telltale sign. You'll notice that the OCD thoughts, they start as what if or maybe
Oh,
questions.
okay.
Yeah. So what if this, what if that? And they tend to like repeat themselves. So OCD is always looking for a loophole. And that's where, like, if you are that person on the other side who is receiving the questions, you probably feel like it's 100 question trivia every day
Yeah.
around the same issue. And you're like, I've already answered that, you know? But the OCD person is looking for the loophole. They're like, oh, well, they said it different yesterday. So that
Yeah.
must mean this.
Yeah, and it keeps leading to an endless cycle of infinity. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it does happen a lot of times too. It's perceived in so many different ways, but a lot of people get irritated by it too. It's just like at least you're teaching them how to respond to these things. Like, okay, let's cut this off before this becomes a problem. Because a lot of times when they start getting
Yes.
questioned, people start getting defensive, especially when you say, "Oh, are you cheating on me?" And they're like, "What? Makes you think that I'm doing this? I don't have,
Right.
and they
Right.
start going to question it themselves, like, you're gonna accuse. Then what does the excuse come? Oh well, you accused me, so I went ahead and did it. I'm like, yeah, that's not an excuse to go do that kind of thing. Sorry, but we're not little
Right.
kids. We don't. You can't use the kid mentality in that one. Like, oh, well, I just did it just because you told me I kept doing it. Yeah, that doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Right, very true. And think about how many relationships could be
Hmm.
contained and saved if they knew how to respond to that
Yeah,
question. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, I
I
agree.
even had a person who was fully in the OCD bubble of assuming that their spouse had cheated and had already bought a book on forgiveness.
What?
And the spouse had never cheated. Yeah, see, like it's a belief disorder.
Yeah,
They they believe, this bad thing to be true. That's why they're acting the way they do.
yeah.
Because when you think about it, you act according to what you believe is true.
True.
But if something were not true, you can brush it off and move on with your life. But um yeah,
No,
so
I think it's a really good point though, because thinking about now that we explored OCD a little bit, everybody always says everything's OCD. Now it's like, is it really though? Think about what the actual OCD, what it actually means to be OCD versus what we think it is. Because normally people are like, oh yeah, my mom is also OCD about things, and like because my mom was like that too. She was real obsessive about way she did things, but I don't think she was OCD. It was just a thing you say how to explain her behavior. You're like, oh yeah, she's just really OCD about cleaning everything. So, it's like you're cleaning all the corners of the walls and everything else. So, I mean, but
mhm,
it's just like it's interesting though, because like I said, a lot of people I don't think people really know what it is. I think everybody just hears what it is. They get these movies that tell you what they think it is, and people are watching these, and instead of actually doing some actual research and looking at these things, they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna let this TV show or this movie tell me that this is what OCD should be. Instead of
right.
actually looking at what the actual term means and the things that people deal with or how it's presented in other people too.
Yes, and Howie Mandel is a great celebrity spokesperson about it now. Have you heard his story?
Yeah. Yeah. Howie's an interesting character for sure.
Yeah. Well, on his like interviews and stuff, he talks about how he shaves his head because he doesn't want germs in his hair. Like, even though he's been through treatment, I think he could still use a lot more work. Like, just to grow his hair out. He has nice curly hair, but he
Right.
doesn't grow it long. And he has a separate home for times when his family is sick. 'Cause he doesn't want to be around them
I
when
mean,
they're sick.
I could see
Yeah.
it though, it
I
had to be
mean,
interesting when he came out and said that though to people, because it's like, well, now it makes sense though why he did what he did, because how he used to have the curly hair all the time, because when he did that show in the 90s, Bobby's World, he had the
yes.
curly hair because that was him on the screen, and he did the voice of the kid too. And then he
Hmm.
did comedy and things, and all of a sudden he kind of trailed off for a lot of people, and then all of a sudden he came back and he's he shaved his head bald when he started doing Deal or No Deal and things like that too. And you always wonder,
Yeah.
like, okay, what's with this complete 180 change, And everybody else
Yeah.
would just think of it as okay, it's whatever. But really, when it comes out that he's OCD, it's like now it gets really interesting because then you're like, okay, then you start going back and looking for the different behaviors he would do, or people would probably come on and start telling stories about him, and it all makes sense. It wouldn't be that he was just weird. It would make sense now because that's what he was dealing with.
Yes. And the other thing, kind of like going back to your example, like let's say your mom was a very clean person, people do stereotype that as OCD, but
Hmm.
it's really about the intentions
Yeah,
behind it. Because is it like, oh, she's worried that there's asbestos and we're going to get cancer,
yeah,
or that our home is going to be raided with like cockroaches if we don't clean like very
yeah,
intently, kind of thing. Because like there's a thing on Khloe Kardashian one time I saw where she was saying that she was so OCD about her pantry
yeah.
organization, and just the way she described it, it's like, no, you're not having any distress over this. Like, this is just something that you like and you prefer, but
Yeah, but
this
like I said,
isn't.
see, so like that's another prime example of this it being misused. People miscategorize what it actually is. They just
Mhm.
think because that's what they've always been told that it's this, but it's really not what it is. It's something else. And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting though once you find out what it really is, then it's like, okay, well, I never knew that's what it was until now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think about all these women who feel insecure in relationships or are told that they're insecure, if
Yeah,
it's really relationship OCD.
yeah, that's true. That's a good question though. I mean, because a lot of people don't, like I said, we like we just covered. People don't really know what it is, but now when you break it down, there's different types of OCD and,
Yes.
and stuff like that. And it's always mispresented as something else, or somebody's like, oh, they're overreacting, or oh, you're being crazy, or you're doing this, you're doing that. And it may not be the case. It may just be that's something they're dealing with.
Yes, and all those times when people talk about their exes, or you think back and people will say, "Oh, they were so obsessive, they were or even possessive." Like,
They were crazy, psychotic, anyways.
yes. Well, and then even in like your own relationships, how you're like feeling like you're too much.
Yeah,
I think we all do that because we care about our relationships very deeply and
yeah,
they mean a lot to us. Um, and so what I do for women, like, for example, there was this person, I can't share because of confidentiality, like all their parts and pieces, but um, they were feeling very, very like distraught if their significant other had like a different, like a flat facial expression, if they look
yeah,
like they're not having a good time. All right. And then there was the concern of like, what if we're not compatible? Because they were recently engaged. And as soon as like the relationship went to that next level, the OCD thoughts were unmanageable.
yeah,
So she found me on YouTube, which is great. Love YouTube for that. We worked together, and within a few months, she got past all of that because what we did was we're looking at the evidence. Okay, so is there any evidence he's not having a good time? Is there any evidence that you're not going to be compatible forever? Like, no.
yeah,
Like, so once she recognized to look for the evidence, it's then like, all right, we need to come out of the OCD bubble and cross the bridge into reality, into the land of the here and now. Because in the
yeah.
land of the here and now are the facts that keeps you from going down all those rabbit hole spirals. So,
True.
because of that, she was able to maintain her engagement and walk down the aisle. So, it was so beautiful seeing her go from a place of like, I don't know that we're going to make it, to I can't imagine my life without him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as we get ready to start wrapping up, I have to ask you a couple questions, okay? At this part of the show, I've been asking people the same questions, okay? So the first one
Mm.
is for you is if your mental health had a song, what would that song be?
Oh, goodness. I don't know, Pete. Man, Should have been more prepared. What do you think?
Oh my god.
What would be a good song?
Whatever song comes to mind first for you, go for it. What is the first song you think of when that question's asked you? Because I get some very interesting responses to it.
Oh
I
gosh.
got what is it? One what Susan Snow told me Rage Against the Machine was hers. She said I would make fun of her for that one. I was like, no, no, no. I like Rage Against the Machine. I had a woman who was from the Middle East. She came over. She was talking about what did she say? She said Michael Jackson. Yeah, yeah. She said Michael Jackson's "Beat It" was hers. So you get it's
Uh-huh.
any kind of response. Like if you could just give it any kind of category, the first song you think of that comes to mind.
Oh man. I'm really not good with songs, but probably um I mean, I like any country song. Oh, what's that song with Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton? I'll be your honeybee.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I know which one it is.
Yeah.
I've heard it. My wife listens a lot more country than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like it because it's like you're that reliable, dependable person.
yeah.
Yeah. Even though they didn't make it in their marriage, but still, I like the song.
So my next question for you before we start wrapping up is that if you could break the stigma about mental health, anything that you see that comes in and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm tired of this. Let's get it out there now. What would it be?
I think, as we were talking about at the beginning of the show, check your sources.
Yeah.
Like, just be very diligent and smart
Yeah.
about where you consume information because we're very impressionable people and it can be dangerous if you consume the wrong information.
I couldn't say it any better myself. I think that's a great point. Well, Aaron Davis, thank you so much for coming in. Did you want to let everybody know where they can find you? What's the best way to reach out to you if they'd like to?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Erin Davis Coaching. I'm on YouTube at Erin Davis YouTube. I've got a lot of popular resources on a landing page, which you can find at livebeyonddoubt.com/link-tree.
Awesome. Guys, and I'll have everything down in the below the video for you too. And if you're listening on the audio side, it's all going to be down there as well for you too. Just check the description, things like that. Well, thank you so much for coming in. This is a great conversation. I enjoyed having you today, and guys, check out our podcast. Like go check it out. It's out there. How often do you drop your episodes?
Oh, every week, every Tuesday, and it's Bossing Up Overcoming
That's
OCD,
right.
and it's on all the platforms.
There we go, guys. She's on everything. And I'm Pete for Anxiety. I'm on everything down from X down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind. Somebody, one kind act you can do could save somebody for how you can make their day. I'm Pete for Anxiety, saying, hey, don't ask your day today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?